Back when I first started playing League of Legends, all the way in Season 1, the very first champion that I saved up 6,300 IP to buy was Kennen. This was my first main, so it interests me very much that now, 7 years after his original release, he has the exact same kit as he did when he first came out. Kennen was the 49th champion added to League of Legends, and as of Season 7, of the 48 champions that came before him, 30 have received some sort of mini rework or full-blown champion update, some of them more than once. That means if you were a champion released in this early period of League of Legends, you had more than a 60% chance of being reworked or updated at some point, either because your gameplay just doesn't work in modern League of Legends, or because champions that came after you started outclassing your kit with much better, more polished abilities. It's also very possible that we see that number rise even higher as the years go on. The interesting thing about Kennen is even after more than 7 years, he has never received a rework, no update or tweaks to how any of his abilities work. The way that his model looks and moves nowadays is almost the exact same way as it did back in 2010. So how on earth did all of this happen, and why is one of the oldest AP mages in the game being played as one of the strongest AD top laners currently? Well, let's go ahead and talk about it. So Kennen was first added to League of Legends in April of 2010, and he was a pretty solid pick mid lane right away. Riot had to tweak him a bit on release since when he first came out he had some really weird problems, like his ultimate would only apply a single Mark of the Storm on each enemy, even if it hit an enemy multiple times. But after they gave him some polish and updates to his abilities, he became a pretty great mid laner right out of the gate. There's a few reasons why he was so good, the first of which being his energy. Being one of the 2 energy users in the game, he had the freedom to spam his abilities all that he wanted, only having to worry about running out of energy in massive and long team fights. His infinite spamming made him a great champion for poking and harassing people in lane with his Q and W combo in particular. On top of that, he had a great engage ability with his E that set up for an incredible ultimate, Slicing Maelstrom. This was seriously one of the best teamfight abilities in the game that not only could deal a ludicrous amount of damage to an enemy team, but it also provided an AoE stun. Being able to stun multiple people was a really rare thing for an ability to do back then. There were only 4 other champions in League of Legends who had ultimates that could AoE stun at the time. 4 champions out of the 48 that came before him. That's 8%. This made him a very valuable pick that could swing games and carry solo queue easily. He didn't really have anything lacking in his kit, so Riot did have to give him some interesting nerfs to balance him out, like he was the only energy user, even years after his release, that had an energy cost on his ultimate at the time, but he's still shown through as one of the best AP mages in the game. As time went on though, the years were not kind to Kennen. One of the things that made his abilities so strong, his E and ultimate in particular, were the lack of dashes in the game at the time. His E doesn't look that impressive by modern standards, but when you imagine this rushing at you when you have no escape outside of Flash, which you better pray you have up, it's a terrifying ability. In League of Legends, when Kennen was first released, only 11 dashes existed in the game at the time. The only abilities I'm not including being engage abilities that you have, like Alistar's W or Fiddlesticks' ultimate. Of all the abilities in the game, there were only 11 that you could possibly use to get away from Kennen's ultimate, and of these 11, they were scattered out, so there was only 1 per champion, so only 22% of champions had escapes to jump away. This made Kennen very difficult to get away from if you were caught mispositioning. His E was an amazing engage that you couldn't run away from, and his ultimate was nearly impossible for 78% of champions to get out of. But it's a much different story today. You want to know how many dashes exist in League of Legends nowadays? Well, if we're counting every single dash available, and we include some that you do have to use on minions, like an Aurelia Q or an Akali ultimate, then there's 73 dashes today. Some champions here do have multiple dashes, so it's no longer 1 per champion, but if we're still counting the ratio of dashes in the game per champion in the game, that means there's a 0.53 ratio of escape dashes per champion, more than double the 0.22 from when Kennen was released. The increasing number of champions who have movement abilities better than his E now makes it a much easier ability to avoid, and all the escape abilities in game makes getting out of his ultimate a lot easier than it was in earlier seasons. Whether you're using a dash nowadays or something else that we haven't even touched on, like a free Rengar cleanse or a Jace E to knock you away, Kennen's abilities all began to suffer from a sort of ability inflation rotation that's been persisting throughout League. This is one of the things that killed Kennen's viability as an AP mage. The second thing to kill that viability was actually Aurelia. Aurelia was released a year after Kennen came out, and back then you have to keep in mind a lot of AP mages were run in team comps in League of Legends top lane. The two strategies at the time that were most popular were either throwing your AD carry mid lane and your AP mage top lane, or throwing a double mage composition with a mage both mid lane and top lane. And at first this made Kennen a great top lane mage, as he could run away from ganks with his E and had a lot of movement that a lot of other champions didn't have. But when Aurelia was released, that killed any chance he had of succeeding in the lane. Aurelia's mobility and crowd control, as well as her crowd control reduction from her passive, made it impossible for Kennen to lane against her, to a point where even today she is still the hardest counter that Kennen has top lane. But finally, the nail in the coffin for poor old Kennen was the removal of an item named Zhonya's Ring. This was an item that was in the game which served as a combination of Rabadon's Deathcap and Zhonya's Hourglass. Building this item gave you a massive amount of AP, 120 plus a bonus 25%, as well as the Zhonya's status effect. Kennen really relied on this item a lot, as he needed that status to survive with his ultimate in teamfights, but he also needed the AP to deal enough damage to be viable. Getting all of that from this easily rushable item made it the perfect fit for his champion. However, Riot removed it a few years after his release and split it into Rabadon's Deathcap and Zhonya's Hourglass. Now, Kennen can't just rush the Hourglass for his status effect, since it gives less than half the AP that Zhonya's Ring gave, and surviving doesn't really matter if you aren't dealing serious damage while you're surviving. So ever since then, Kennen has had a much tougher time building to his power spikes. As time went on, Kennen eventually faded away and became a relatively obscure champion. He's still powerful at times. I mean, you can still win games with this old AP build, and there's actually been some items introduced like Hextech Proto Belt that can help out a lot of his weaknesses. But as the years went by, he ultimately just got outclassed by other better AP mages that were released into League, mages that had better poke, better utility, and better ultimates, so Kennen was pretty much forgotten. Or at least he was forgotten until people realized something interesting about him. Kennen actually has some incredibly high base stats. Back then, he had one of the best auto attack ranges in the game with 575, and on top of that, if you stacked him up against a lot of the old AD carries at the time, he actually outclassed them in a number of ways. These are nerfed Kennen stats, and I couldn't find the original stats for both Kennen and these AD carries, but check this out. At level 6, Kennen has 63.6 attack damage just as a flat base attack damage, and back then this was a little bit higher. This is one of the stats that was nerfed. In earlier seasons, it was somewhere around 65 to 66 base attack damage. Now, in seasons 1 and 2, some of the most popular AD carries were Ashe and Sivir, so let's compare his stats to theirs. Ashe has 65.4 base attack damage at level 6, and Sivir has 67. This doesn't look too impressive or all that favorable to Kennen, but look at the attack speeds. Attack speed works in a little bit of a weird way in League of Legends. You have a flat attack speed as your base, and then your bonus attack speed is given as a percentage of your base. So this means that champions with higher base attack speeds will benefit more from attack speed bonuses through items, runes, or masteries, since that percentage is taking a larger chunk of attack speed as a bonus from the larger base. Looking back at these champions, Ashe has a base attack speed of 0.658 auto attacks per second at level 6, and she naturally has a scaling bonus of 13.2%. That's just base bonus with levels, not including items. Sivir has a flat attack speed of 0.625 auto attacks per second with a 6.32% bonus at level 6. Kennen, on the other hand, Kennen has a 0.69 attack speed base with a 13.4% bonus at level 6. Not only does he have the highest base attack speed of any of these AD carries, he also has the best base scaling, which serves as a double buff because the percentage bonus is not only higher, but it does more for him having the highest base attack speed. Genja and Moscow 5 were one of the first pro teams to realize this and use him effectively in competitive play. His kit, although it may be getting a little bit weak for an AP mid laner at this point, was still incredibly good when compared to other AD carries. He had a built-in escape with his E, which almost no AD carries had back then. His ultimate and his stuns still serve as an incredibly useful set of skills, since even if he wasn't dealing damage damage with them since he's building no AP, having hard CC in the form of an AoE stun is something that actually no other AD carry has even today. Eventually, Riot did nerf Kennen's base attack damage, not attack speed, so he could still be played as an AD carry, but he wasn't outclassing everyone else. Even now, he still scales to the highest base attack damage of any of these 3 champions at level 18, but eventually he was getting kind of forgotten as other AD carries were introduced to the game that had more range, more lane control, and more utility than this older crowd. But even though Kennen isn't played as an AD carry that often anymore, he's still, even now, still played as an AD top laner with a build that focuses on attack speed. This build, which is actually a little OP at the time of making this video, is focused on rushing Blade of the Ruin King into a Runin's Hurricane and then a Frozen Mallet. The way it works is you take Kennen top lane because he's so great at auto attack harassing melee champions, and most melee champions are played top lane. The Blade of the Ruin King lets you deal tons of damage to tanks when you face them, as well as giving you a boatload of attack damage and attack speed. Great stats for you to have. You then go for a Runin's Hurricane because the passive of throwing 3 autos at once works with your W. Kennen's W is the ability that has the passive of every 4 autos you get an empowered auto attack that lays a Mark of the Storm and deals extra damage. With Runin's, you can cut that auto time down from 4 autos to 2, and you get a ton more attack speed with it as well, of course. Frozen Mallet there is to make melee's lives even more of a living hell and make sure nobody can get away from you since you already didn't have enough CC. And then items after this include stuff like Wit's End, which gives you even more attack speed. I mean, Kennen is actually tied for having the second most base attack speed in the game, only 0.004 away from having the highest attack speed, which means that this AP mage for mid lane is almost tied for being the most efficient champion to stack attack speed on, and this isn't some sort of gimmick or anything. This actually works. Kennen is one of my favorite champions, and I've been having a blast with this new AD build top lane. Not only is it fun to see one of my favorite champions being popular in both casual and competitive play while having a very small ban rate, but it's also one of the most impressive things I have ever seen in League of Legends. This champion, who was released 7 years ago now, has never received a single change to any of his abilities or kit that wasn't a standard buff or nerf. He is almost the exact same as he was when he was first put into the game, but even so, he has managed to stay viable every single one of these 7 years in one form or another. He's been played both as an AD champion and an AP mage. He's been played in every one of the 3 lanes, top, bottom, and mid, and he's seen so many changes in metas throughout the years, still managing to find a way to be useful, viable, and fun. It's a miracle. I'm a little worried about him being reworked at some point in the future, as Riot generally doesn't like it when champions are played outside of what they originally intended them to be. That's why AP Yi mid lane was taken away from us, but even if he is reworked or changed at some point that kills this duality, Kennen will always go down as one of the most resilient, versatile, and well-made champions in all of League of Legends. Thank you very much for watching. Good luck in solo queue, and have a wonderful day.